Good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you. This is our 7th summit like this. I must give you a piece of background about the speaker you just heard from. This was Deborah's concept. I worked with her at the U.S. Council on Competitiveness. She continued to want to work with other countries. She'd work with Brazil. She'd work with Mexico. And our board would get together and say, hold it, we're the U.S. Council on Competitiveness. Why do you keep doing this, Deborah? And we had really significant debates until we finally saw the light. That we saw the ability of countries coming together was really the essence of competitiveness. So Deborah, thank you so much for inventing this. Can we call you our mother of this effort? Would that be okay?
It's just a new grandmother.
Alice, this cooperation with Imperial is just fantastic. In my day job, I work for Royal Dutch Shell. Imperial College is our most significant research partner anywhere in the world. Have great confidence in what they're doing, and to have this cooperation here is just fantastic. We have expanded the actual formal membership of the GFCC to include universities, and we have 40 universities signed up from 20 countries, and we're glad to see Imperial being a leader of the pack. If you haven't seen the IBM display at the back of the room, I urge you to do that. This is a shameless sales pitch for IBM, that's okay. But if you go through the innovation that's there and how that can apply to cities and what you're doing, I think it will be quite useful. And the fact KPMG was a sponsor in allowing us to use their facility today, we greatly appreciate it. It's an outstanding firm. Cities have been an important thing we've added to this. This is the theme, as you heard from Deborah. But cities are critical with 50 to 60% of the greenhouse gas emissions that we must deal with as a world coming out of cities. Ban Ki-moon, the Secretary General of the United Nations, said it probably best: the battle for sustainability will be won or lost in the cities. And I think that's very critical. Coming together across countries, developing, to come together to see how we're going to deal with the build out of cities as the 2.5 billion people in the world increase over the next decades to come. Thank you very much. I look forward to a hearty exchange. I think we'll learn a lot as we share together. If you could look in your materials at the global principles, if it's not convenient, that's okay, there won't be a test. But I think it would be helpful if we look at them a bit together, and let me give you some background on the principles as we introduce them at this conference. As we pulled together GFCC, the challenge was finding that commonality that goes across countries, now across universities and across companies. And so the challenge of writing principles we could all agree to and follow was mammoth. And we did it for the first time in 2010, and we got 100% sign-off of our members. We refreshed them in 2012. But now in 2016 is what I'd call the first major revisit of our principles, and it reflects heavily on the input from our fellows. In 2010, we didn't have any fellows. And now we have this outstanding group of fellows who have given us tremendous input to these principles. And they've also been mapped to the 17 United Nations Sustainability Goals. So I think that gives it a multiple dimension that will be useful to you throughout the work. The cities are reflected prominently, not because we were going to have this summit focused on cities. It's because they naturally were reflected prominently as we revisited them, update them. If I could just point out the first two principles, we talk about the importance of public-private partnerships, citizenship engagement, and excellence in government. We just developed these principles before I took a trip to Singapore recently. I think we'd all say Singapore is a leading city of the world. And so I had a chance to spend a day and a half going around to government ministers and saying, how do you do it? And I had these principles in mind, and particularly the first one. And if I had to go away and say, what did I learn from Singapore today? It was public-private partnerships, the citizenship engagement, and really excellent government where it attracts the best people. So to me, I saw that principle being lived in one city that I think we all think we could learn from. Local innovation is really stressed in principle number 2, and I think that's so important. And I think that's the other dimension we have. I won't take you through all 10 principles, but I really would ask that you take a look at them, see how they will apply to any kind of work you're doing in cities. We all probably live in or near a city, so you can apply them locally if nothing else. I have tried putting them in front of people in various times that were involved in city work, and it surprises me they all kind of agree, because there's not one that they couldn't follow.